Hello and welcome. My name is Alan and we are back more. Diary of Anne Frank. Diary of a Young Girl. So yeah. She kind of went over a number of things in the last episode, talking about how there's still struggles even amongst those that were protecting them and everything. So let's jump into this. Thursday, May the 25th, 1944. Dearest Kitty, Bep's engaged! The news isn't much of a surprise, though none of us are particularly pleased. Bertus may be a nice, steady, athletic young man, but Bep doesn't love him, and to me, that's enough reason to advise her against marrying him. Bep's trying to get ahead in the world, and Bertus is pulling her back. He's a laborer without any interest in any desire to make something of himself, and I don't think that'll make Bep happy. I can understand Bep's wanting to put an end to her indecision. 4 weeks ago, she decided to write him off, but then she felt even worse. So she wrote him a letter, and now she's engaged. There are several factors involved in the engagement. First, Bep's sick father, who likes Bertus very much. Second, she's the oldest of the Voskuil girls, and her mother teases her about being an old maid. Third, she's just turned 24, and that matters a great deal to Bep. Mother said it would have been better if Bep had simply had an affair with Bertus. I don't know. I feel sorry for Bep and can understand her loneliness. In any case, they can get married only after the war, since Bertus is in hiding, or at any rate has gone underground. Besides, they don't have a penny to their name and nothing in the way of a hope chest. What a sorry prospect for Bep, for whom we all wish the best. I only hope Bertus improves under her influence, and that Bep finds another man, one who knows how to appreciate her. Yours, Anne M. Frank. The same day. There's something happening every day. This morning, Mr. Van Hoven was arrested. He was hiding 2 Jews in his house. It's a heavy blow for us, not only because those poor Jews are once again balancing on the edge of an abyss, but also because it's terrible for Mr. Van Hoven. The world's been turned upside down. The most indecent people are being sent to concentration camps, prisons, and lonely cells, while the lowest of the low rule over young and old, rich and poor. One gets caught for black marketeering, another for hiding Jews, or other unfortunate souls. Unless you're a Nazi, you don't know what's going to happen to you from one day to the next. Mr. Van Hoven is a great loss to us, too. Bep can't possibly lug such huge amounts of potatoes all the way here, nor should she have to. So our only choice is to eat fewer of them. I'll tell you what we have in mind, but it's certainly not going to make life here any more agreeable. Mother says we'll skip breakfast, eat hot cereal and bread for lunch, and fried potatoes for dinner, and if possible, vegetables or lettuce once or twice a week. That's all there is. We're going to be hungry, but nothing's worse than being caught. Yours, Anne M. Frank. Friday, May the 26th, 1944. My dearest Kitty, at long last, I can sit quietly at my table before the crack in the window frame and write you everything I want to say. I feel more miserable than I have in months. Even after the break-in, I didn't feel so utterly broken, inside and out. On the one hand, there's the news about Mr. Van Hoven, the Jewish question, which is discussed in detail by everyone in the house, the invasion, which is so long in coming, the awful food, the tension, the miserable atmosphere, my disappointment in Peter. On the other hand, there's Bep's engagement, the Pentecost reception, the flowers, Mr. Kugler's birthday, cakes, and stories about cabarets, movies, and concerts. That gap, that enormous gap, is always there. One day we're laughing at the comical side of life and hiding, and the next day, and there are many such days, we're frightened, and the fear, tension, and despair can be read on our faces. Miep and Mr. Kugler bear the greatest burden for us, and for all those in hiding, Miep is everything she does, and Mr. Kugler through his enormous responsibility for the 8 of us, which is sometimes so overwhelming that he can hardly speak from the pent-up tension and strain. Mr. Kleiman and Bep also take good care of us, but they're able to put the annex out of their minds, even if it's only for a few hours or a few days. They have their own worries. Mr. Kleiman and his health, and Bep with her engagement, which isn't looking very promising at the moment. But they also have their outings, their visits with friends, their everyday lives as ordinary people, so that the tension is sometimes relieved, if only for a short while ours never is, never has been, not once in the 2 years we've been here. How much longer will this increasingly oppressive, unbearable weight press down on us? The drains are clogged again. We can't run the water, or if we do, only a trickle. We can't flush the toilet, so we have to use a toilet brush. And we've been putting our dirty water into a big earthenware jar. We can manage for today, but what will happen if the plumber can't fix it on his own? The sanitation department can't come until Tuesday. Mia sent us raisin bread with Happy Pentecost written on top. It's almost as if she were mocking us, since our moods and cares are far from happy. We've all become more frightened since the Van Hoven business. Once again you hear shh from all sides, and we're doing everything more quietly. The police forced the door there. They could just as easily do that here, too. What will we do if wherever... No, I mustn't write that down. But the question won't let itself be pushed to the back of my mind. On the contrary, all the fear I've ever felt is looming before me in all its horror. I had to go downstairs alone at 8 this evening to use the bathroom. There was no one down there since they were all listening to the radio. I wanted to be brave, but it was hard. I always feel safer upstairs than in that huge silent house when I'm alone with those mysterious muffled sounds from upstairs and the honking of horns in the street. I have to hurry and remind myself where I am to keep from getting the shivers. Miep has been acting much nicer towards us since her talk with Father, but I haven't told you about that yet. Miep came up one afternoon all flushed and asked Father straight out if they thought they too were infected with the current anti-Semitism. Father was stunned and quickly talked her out of the idea, but some of Miep's suspicion has lingered on. They're doing more errands for us now and showing more of an interest in our troubles, though we certainly shouldn't bother them with our woes. Oh, they're such good, noble people. I've asked myself again and again whether it wouldn't have been better if we hadn't gone into hiding. If we were dead now and didn't have to go through this misery, especially so that all the others could be spared the burden. But we all shrink from this thought. We still love life. We haven't yet forgotten the voice of nature, and we keep hoping for everything. Yet let something happen soon. Even in an air raid, nothing can be more crushing than this anxiety. Let the end come, however cruel. At least then we'll know whether we are to be the victors or the vanquished. Yours, Anne M. Frank. Wednesday, May the 31st, 1944. Dearest Kitty, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday it was too hot to hold my fountain pen, which is why I couldn't write to you. Friday, the drains were clogged. Saturday, they were fixed. Mr. Kleiman came for a visit in the afternoon and told us a lot about Joppie. She and Jacques van Marsen are in the same hockey club. Sunday, Bep dropped by to make sure there hadn't been a break-in and stayed for breakfast. Monday, a holiday because of Pentecost, Mr. Geese served as the annex washman. And Tuesday, we were finally allowed to open the windows. We've seldom had a Pentecost weekend that was so beautiful and warm. Or maybe hot is a better word. Hot weather is horrible in the annex. To give you an idea of the numerous complaints, I'll briefly describe these sweltering days. Saturday. Wonderful. What fantastic weather. We all said in the morning. If only it weren't quite so hot, we said in the afternoon, when the windows had to be shut. Sunday. The heat's unbearable. The butter's melting and there's not a cool spot anywhere in the house. The bread's drying out, the milk's going sour, the windows can't be opened. We poor outcasts are suffocating while everyone else is enjoying their Pentecost, according to Mrs. Von Don. Monday. My feet hurt. I have nothing cool to wear. I can't do the dishes in this heat. Grumbling from early in the morning to late at night. It was awful. I can't stand the heat. I'm glad the winds come up today and that the sun's still shining. Yours, Anne M. Frank. Friday, June the 2nd, 1944. Dear Kitty, if you're going to the attic, take an umbrella with you, preferably a large one. This is to protect you from the household showers. There's a Dutch proverb, high and dry is safe and sound, but it obviously doesn't apply to wartime guns and to people in hiding catbox. Maushie's gotten into the habit of relieving herself on some newspapers or between the cracks in the floorboards, so we have good reason to fear the splatters and, even worse, the stench. The new morgue in the warehouse has the same problem. Anyone who's ever had a cat that's not housebroken can imagine the smells. Other than pepper and thyme that permeate the house. I also had a brand new prescription for gunfire jitters. When the shooting gets loud, proceed to the nearest wooden staircase. Run up and down a few times, making sure to stumble at least once. With all the scratches and the noise of running and falling, you won't even be able to hear the shooting, much less worry about it. Yours truly has put this magic formula to use with great success. Yours, Anne M. Frank. Monday, June the 5th, 1944. Dearest Kitty, new problems in the annex. A quarrel between Dussel and the Franks over the division of butter. Capitulation on the part of Dussel. Close friendship between the latter and Mrs. Von Dahn. Flirtations, kisses, and friendly little smiles. Dussel is beginning to long for female companionship. The Von Dahns don't see why we should bake a spice cake for Mr. Kugler's birthday when we can't have one for ourselves. All very petty. Mood upstairs, bad. Mrs. Von Dahn has a cold. Dussel caught with brewer's yeast tablets, while we've got none. The Fifth Army has taken Rome. The city neither destroyed nor bombed. Great propaganda for Hitler. Very few potatoes and vegetables. One loaf of bread was Modi. Charminkilt, name of the new warehouse cat. Can't stand pepper. She sleeps in the cat box and does her business in the wood shavings. Impossible to keep her. Bad weather. Continuous bombing of Pas de Calais and the west coast of France. No one buying dollars. Gold even less interesting. The bottom of our black monkey box is in sight. What are we going to live on next month? Yours, Anne M. Frank. Tuesday, June the 6th, 1944. My dearest Kitty, this is D-Day. The BBC announced at 12. This is the day the invasion has begun. This morning at 8, the British reported heavy bombing of Calais, Boulogne, Le Havre, and Cherbourg as well as Pas de Calais, as usual. Further, as a precautionary measure for those in the occupied territory, everyone living within a zone of 20 miles from the coast was warned to prepare for bombardments. Where possible, the British will drop pamphlets an hour ahead of time. According to the German news, British paratroopers have landed on the coast of France. British landing craft are engaged in combat with German naval units, according to the BBC. Conclusion reached by the Annex while breakfasting at 9. This is a trial landing, like the one 2 years ago in Dieppe. BBC broadcast in German, Dutch, French, and other languages at 10. The invasion has begun. So this is the real invasion. BBC broadcast in German at 11. Speech by Supreme Commander General Dwight D. Eisenhower. BBC broadcast in English. This is D-Day. General Eisenhower said to the French people, "Stiff fighting will come now, but after this, the victory. The year 1944 is going to be the year of complete victory. Good luck." BBC broadcast in English at 1. 11,000 planes are shuttling back and forth or standing by to land troops and bomb behind enemy lines. 4,000 landing craft and small boats are continuously arriving in the area between Cherbourg and Le Havre. English and American troops are already engaged in heavy combat. Speeches by Gerbrandy, the Prime Minister of Belgium, King Haakon of Norway, de Gaulle of France, the King of England, and last but not least, Churchill. A huge commotion in the Annex. Is this really the beginning of the long-awaited liberation? The liberation we've all talked so much about, which still seems too good, too much of a fairy tale ever to come true. Will this year, 1944, bring us victory? We don't know yet, but where there's hope, there's life. It fills us with fresh courage and makes us strong again. We'll need to be brave to endure the many fears and hardships and the suffering yet to come. It's now a matter of remaining calm and steadfast, of gritting our teeth and keeping a stiff upper lip. France, Russia, Italy, and even Germany can cry out in agony, but we don't yet have that right. Oh, Kitty, the best part of the invasion is that I have the feeling that friends are on the way. Those terrible Germans have oppressed and threatened us for so long, and the thought of friends and salvation means everything to us. Now it's not just the Jews, but Holland and all of occupied Europe. Maybe, Margot says, I can even go back to school in September or October. Yours, Anne M. Frank. P.S. I'll keep you informed on the latest news. This morning and last night, dummies made of straw and rubber were dropped from the air behind German lines, and they exploded the minute they hit the ground. Many paratroopers, their faces blackened so they couldn't be seen in the dark, landed as well. The French coast was bombarded with 5,500 tons of bombs during the night, and men in 6 at the morning at 6 in the morning. The first landing craft came ashore. Today, there were 20,000 planes in action. The German coastal batteries were destroyed even before the landing. A small bridgehead has already been formed. Everything's going well, despite the bad weather. The army and the people are one will and one hope. But we'll go ahead and end this episode here. So yeah, as we have been seeing last episode and this episode, she's been spacing the entries more and more. For a while there, she was doing it pretty much every day. But last episode and this episode, we've been seeing them come more sparsely. There would be a couple days missed here, a couple days missed there. And so it was seeming like there was always space. And in this episode, she has an entry which is just, she don't even give a full description. It's pretty much in shorthand. Such and such bad, such and such this, such and such that. And it's like, wow. You can tell things are going badly. But then, of course, D-Day happens. And so this is bringing hope. Remember, up to this point, there isn't much in the way of really intrusive fighting. The Russians, where they're already aground, are able to push and have been fighting the Germans. The French are occupied. Germany has already taken them over. So they're an occupied opposition force. And there's little they can do. It's little this, little that. So, for the most part, there's some stiff opposition in the east. But Germany's still able to hold its own. Your countries that weren't actually on land, or that were cut off by water, have been having to perform bombing raids and such. It's about all they can really accomplish beforehand. Now you have D-Day. Strategic landing on the coast of France. So it's both Britain, the US, Canadian forces, all of them. They're there to help liberate France. And yeah. So it gives these forces a foothold on the Western Front. It isn't to say there weren't oppositional forces in the West, but where there was only so much of a fight they could put up, most of your opposition was coming from the east. That's where all the land connections come from. So you have Russia and even some of the Nordic states and other states. They pushed in from the east. I'm sure there were others that tried to come in, but trying to bring troops into the Western Front was still very difficult. But this invasion sets the stage for a full enclosure of Germany. They say they want 1944 to be the year that Europe is freed. No. The war will continue into 1945, as we now know. And yeah. But it's an important point in the history of World War II. This landing. Dwight D. Eisenhower, who is the American general helping to lead D-Day forces. He will later on, after World War II, become U.S. president in 1952. Yeah. Yeah, presidency terms are every 4 years, so he had 2 terms. Kennedy elected in 60 after him. So yeah, he was elected in 52. But yeah. It's a major moment. But yeah. Anyway, we'll go ahead and end this episode here. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.